Well, switching gears, we keep hearing from Joe Biden and the Democrats that we need to supersize the IRS. Tens of thousands more agents, billions more dollars. But wouldn't it be easier to just simplify our tax code and downsize the IRS, go in the opposite direction? Why don't we just eliminate all those complex tax dodges that President Biden and his rich friends are using and move to a simple 19% flat tax for everyone? The first $25,000 would be exempted to cover folks who don't make that much money. Would that work? Joining me now is Kevin Hassett, former chair of Council of Economic Advisors and author of The Drift, and Steve Moore of the Committee to Unleash Prosperity Hotline, FreedomWorks chief economist and author of GovZilla. Great to see you both, gentlemen. Thanks for being here. So, Steve, you have been pushing this for a long time. Have you done all the numbers and figured out that if we had a whatever it is, 19%, 20% flat tax, we would still get as much income for the government services as we do now?
Well, David, I learned everything I know about the flat tax from our friend Steve Forbes, who literally wrote the book on it. He is so right about this, and it would be a huge thing for simplicity. Actually leads to shorter returns. People understand the tax code, and everybody knows the economic advantages of it. I would simply say this from the perspective of reducing fraud and evasion of the tax system. When you have a simple system, David, everybody understands, everybody knows what the rules are. Because our whole system is based on voluntary compliance. Doesn't matter how many IRS agents that Joe Biden hires. I think you'd get people complying. I think people would feel good about it, and they wouldn't feel like April 15th was a dreaded day.
And again, Kevin, you wouldn't need as many agents. I mean, the IRS would become essentially a collection agency rather than, all these auditors that would have to come in with these fancy audits. And by the way, once again, the hypocrisy of President Biden, of all people, who took advantage of a $500,000 tax dodge that President Obama wanted to get rid of when Mr. Biden was vice president. That's rich, isn't it?
Yeah, the fact is that the Democrats don't want to have a simple tax code because they want to use the IRS as part of their sort of totalitarian dream of a socialist America. And so for sure, I think that they're not going to ever let us do this. But to add to what Steve said, Alan Auerbach, a professor at Berkeley, and I did a review of the literature on the flat tax about a decade ago. And we found that over 10 years, if we switched to a flat tax, GDP would be about 10% higher. That's the average effect in the literature. And so imagine if we had 10% more GDP right now, that would be $3 trillion more GDP to solve our problems.
Yeah, and it'd be a lot more people paying into the system in taxes than we have now. What about this, Steve? We have DeSantis claiming that he wants a different kind of tax altogether. Some people would call it a national sales tax, consumption tax, however you want to define it. Donald Trump has laid into him for that with his ads against DeSantis, claiming that it's going to hurt Americans. And, of course, Milton Friedman, one of the classic free market economists of all times, was against the sales tax because he said it would just be layered on top of the income tax. They wouldn't get rid of it. So now we'd have an extra tax that we didn't have before. What is your feeling about that? Has DeSantis got to be steered straight on this?
No. I mean, look, we have 9 states in America, including Florida, David, as you know, that operate without an income tax. And guess what? Those states, as you know, David, have tremendous growth. They don't have the burden of having to comply with the tax system. I mean, can you imagine if we could do that on the national level and just pay your taxes at the cash register? I think it would be, Kevin was just saying we could get 10% growth out of the flat tax. I think he's right. I think we'd get 20% growth if we could get rid of the income tax entirely. Now, I agree with you. It's going to be tough to get rid of the income tax, but if we could, I think moving towards a system where you tax people what you take out of the economy rather than what they put into the economy would be a great thing.
All right. Well, let's talk about the economy right now, Kevin. We do have, for the first time in a long time, a little drop in revenues in terms of income tax, in terms of individual income tax, to a lot of people suggesting there's a slowdown in the economy. Are we getting closer to a recession or not?
Well, in fact, there was a lot of economic news today, and the answer is yes, we're getting closer to recession. But the thing that I saw that was most interesting this week was that if you look at the Conference Board, they estimate the probability of recession, and they say, and they've got a 100% track record of calling every recession. And right now they say the odds of recession in the next 12 months are 99%. The news today that I thought was most troubling was that inflation is still really, really strong. Core inflation has been staying at 4.7, 4.8%, going all the way back to last fall, even though the Fed's been hiking. And so what it means is the Fed's going to have to continue to hike if it wants to get inflation under control, but it's doing it at a time when even the weakening economy isn't attacking inflation enough. And so it looks very, very much like the stagflation of the 70s, and that's kind of the result of Joe Biden's policies, because he's basically given us all the mistakes of the 70s all over again, and now we're getting the economy of the 70s.
But Steve, we do have that overhang, possibly from the pandemic, of all those extra jobs out there. They do keep hanging on those extra jobs. Does that give you any hope that we could avoid a recession?
Well, look, I sure hope we do. I don't want to see a recession. Now, those are just killers of family incomes and cause incredible financial stress. I'm not going to say we have a 100% tax chance of a recession. I'm going to say that I agree with what Kevin was saying. I think we're in a stagflationary environment right now. It does feel like the 1970s. And I worry, one sector to really worry about right now, David, is the housing sector. It looks like home sales have just come to an abrupt halt. And that's because mortgage rates are so high. And that's because the Fed had to raise interest rates because Joe Biden spent $6 trillion.
Yeah. Of course, meanwhile, the market keeps going up. That doesn't give you any hope, Kevin?
The market is going up right now. I think it's a kind of short-term thing because they think there's going to be a debt limit deal, which I think Steve and I both agree that there will be. And I think that the market is probably celebrating because it's going to look a lot like what Kevin McCarthy wanted it to. There's going to be a big, big cut in spending. And I think that that's kind of what we need to do to get inflation under control and to get the economy out of a stagflationary spiral. Ronald Reagan cut spending and Paul Volcker raised interest rates, and then we finally got inflation under control. And so it could be that the market's starting to celebrate a deal that looks a lot like the one that Kevin McCarthy designed.
Kevin and Steve, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for joining me today. Appreciate it.